this session. Hopefully, we're not going to be experiencing any load shedding because load shedding has been, really challenging, when it comes to me saving these. I couldn't save yesterday's session because load shedding hit us, and then, Wi-Fi went down. So I couldn't upload and I couldn't save the recording. So hopefully today is going to be a good day. Hopefully we're not going to be experiencing any load shedding now in the morning. But yeah, guys, so basically it is a Friday, right? And the first thing I want to do is I want to just check the news. I want to see if I don't have any red folders because I want to stay away from red folders, right? So I do see some red folders today around 9:30 a.m. But honestly, as it is right now is about 5 a.m. right up until around 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. for that matter. We've got no news, right? Between now and 8 a.m. we don't have any news, which means that we can actually look at any and every currency that we want to look at now in the morning, right? And then around 9:30 a.m. we're going to start experiencing some high impact news, right? Also 4:30 p.m. we're going to be experiencing some high impact news on GBP and Euro. So Europe currently right now, all right, Europe currently right now is experiencing download the free Ascom app. Please send me that on WhatsApp. Thank you. So yeah, so we're going to be seeing some high impact news around 9:30 a.m. and also around 4:30 p.m. But currently, as it is right now, right, we've got free flowing access to the markets, right? So that is good. So let's look at the strength, right? Let's look at the trends, right? Because trend is going to be our friends. All right, so I'm seeing some good ideas. All right, I'm seeing NZD USD for massive sell. All right, AUD USD also for massive sell. I'm seeing USD JPY for massive buy. All right, Euro JPY for buy. All right, so I'm seeing some good potential, setups that I really want to look at here. And remember, guys, we're always going to have two types of trends. We're going to have an uptrend, and we're going to have a downtrend. All right. And, we want to buy an uptrend, we want to sell a downtrend. We never want to trade against the trend, right? The trend will always be your friend, right? And how do you identify an uptrend, right? And you identify an uptrend when the first currency is stronger than the second currency. So for example, on Euro JPY, we can see that Euro being the first currency is stronger than JPY being the second currency. So when I open Euro JPY, I want to see the market pushing to the upside. Right, same thing with USD JPY. We can see that USD being the first currency is stronger than JPY being the second currency. So when I open USD JPY, I want to see the market pushing to the upside. Right now, that is the opposite when we're looking for sells. Right. So what does that mean? It means that when I'm looking to sell a market, I'm looking for the market to be pushing down. I need the second currency now stronger than the first currency. See, on a buy, the first currency is stronger than the second. On a sell, the second currency is stronger than the first. For example, look at AUD USD, with USD being the second currency, and USD is stronger than AUD. So when I open AUD USD, I'm looking for some sell structure. I'm looking for the market to be pushing to the downside, right? NZD USD, all right? NZD USD. So what am I looking for there? USD being the second currency is stronger than NZD. So I'm looking for some sells, right? So Euro USD also, right? Euro USD, we can see the USD is stronger than the Euro, right? So I'm looking for what? I'm looking for some sell ideas on those, currency pairs. So now that I've identified my trends, now that I know what it is that I want to look for, right? So here's the magic, guys. So look at this. All right, we're going to look at USD JPY. See, what did I say I wanted to see on USD JPY? I said when I open USD JPY, because I can see that the strength of USD is stronger than JPY, I'm looking for the market to be pushing to the upside. So let's just go open USD JPY and let's see exactly what it is that the markets have for us. All right, and see exactly what the market has for us. So I'm going to open USD JPY. Now we can see that this market is pushing to the upside. From this point, right, we can see a trend here. All right, we can identify a trend here, and the trend is an uptrend. Right, this is an uptrend. Because the market is doing what? The market is trending to the upside. So we can all agree that this is an uptrend, right? We are currently on an uptrend on USD JPY now. Because we're on an uptrend, right? What do we want to do on an uptrend? We want to continue with the trend. So we want to buy uptrends. Now, quickly, guys, in the chat box, if anyone knows, all right, what do we look for when we are on an uptrend? All right, what is the one main thing that we want to start looking for when we're on an uptrend to give us good ideas on good areas where we want to continue with the trend? All right, does anyone know? All right, if anyone knows, drop the chat box what it is that we want to start looking for. Previous ceilings, exactly. That is correct, right? Because the market will always buy on previous ceilings, guys. All right, that is the law. All right, the law of the market says that when we're on an uptrend, the market is always going to break previous ceilings to come back to retest those ceilings to continue to push back to the upside. So the market will always buy on previous ceilings. Those are the critical areas. Those are the crucial zones that we want to start looking for. So let's just look at this market quickly. All right, see, I've already cleared this market, already cleaned this market so that we can start. All right, so for example, we can see here. All right, let's look at here. This is our first example. Now I'm going to make this blue. All right, now why am I making this blue? I'm making this blue because we are on an uptrend. All right, so we can see that we had a previous ceiling here. All right, but look at what the market did. It broke the ceiling, and then what happened? Boom, it came back down to retest that area multiple times for that matter, right? All right, so this, as a clear indication of that, right? So that's our first area, right? We also have an area here, right? We have an area here. We have a ceiling here. Where's that ceiling at? Here. Now we can see, all right, that this is a very good ceiling because look at how many times the market couldn't break this area, right? But eventually when it broke this area, what happened? It came back down to respect this area, and then boom, the market continued to push heavily to the upside. Now we also have what? We have an area here, right? We have an area here, ceiling, right? And look at what the market did. It broke this area, came back to this area, pushed all the way to the upside, right? It also came back again for the second time, right? And also on the trend line. So this was a very, very good idea, right? Boom, made that massive push to the upside. All right, so what else do we have? We also have this one. All right, what did the market do here? Eventually it broke this area, came back to retest this area, pushed up, played up below this area to come retest this area. What happened? It pushed back up to come retest to continue to push to the upside. All right, we can see this area here as a ceiling. We can mark this area here as a ceiling. We can mark this area here as a ceiling. We can see here price broke this area, came back down to this area, and then played all the way to the upside. Right. Now, what I'm looking for right now, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing price trending towards this area here. Right, we can see this area here. Right, price broke this area, came back down to this area, and then made that push. But also, if I'm looking closely at this area, I can see that we also had a ceiling here at this area. So USD JPY could potentially be in a very good buy area. So let's see. See, now that I've identified all my areas and all my potential zones, all I want to do right now is I want to validate these areas. Now, how do I do that? Is I want to validate these by going now and putting strategy together with, analysis. All right. So I'm going to go to USD JPY. And I'm going to open USD JPY. Now, as it is right now, as long as USD JPY strength, all right, as long as the strength is still on our side, all right, all these areas and all these, places where USD JPY is traveling to, oh man, this is a massive push. No ways. Wow, what a massive, massive push. That is a big, big, big push. I've never seen it push like this, without any major, announcements or moves in the markets, through the news, that was a massive drop, honestly. But because we're in an uptrend, I'm saying this market is going to close, above this area, and then we're going to probably see a push, to the upside. All right, probably going to see a push to the upside because we're still on this trend, unless there is now, something that's causing this market to really crash, because we can see this market is really crashing how it's moving right now. All right, and it's very funny because we don't have any news on USD. All right, we don't have any news on USD as it is. All right, we don't have any news on USD for it to really give us that massive push to the downside. Right, let's see what's happening here. All right, we can see the strength also flipped massively. Look at USD JPY. Look at JPY. Right, JPY had 1 bar, and out of nowhere it gained 4 more bars, and USD lost bars. So now JPY is actually stronger than USD. So that's also very important for us to always be keeping tabs with what's happening. Right, but because we are on an uptrend, guys, because we're on an uptrend, I'm thinking this market at this area where it's at right now, it's going to continue to push to the upside. All right, but we're going to see how it's going to play out. All right, because we are still touching, and we can see that every time the market came and it touched this area, what happened is that it continued to push to the upside. So we're going to see how strength flipped. Yeah, I saw that currency definitely flipped on that. All right, so we're going to see, we could potentially be now changing trends or changing directions, which means that this market could break this area to come back to retest it to then continue to drop. So those are the two scenarios. Those are the two scenarios. So USD JPY really changed very quick on us. All right, strength flipped. All right, what else do we want to look for? AUD USD is still valid for a sell. All right, we can see that USD and AUD. All right, USD is still stronger than AUD, so we can look at that still. All right, we can look at AUD USD for that sell still. Now, when we're looking for sells, all right, drop in the chat box what it is that we want to start looking for. When we are looking for sells, what is it that we want to start looking for? Previous floors, exactly. So I want to look at all. I want to first go back and just check if there isn't any. So I'm looking at this area here. All right, this area was a previous what was a previous flow at one point in time. Right now, market always moves in waves, guys. Where it was before, it's gonna probably come back again. All right, so hence we can see here me going all the way to the back. All right, to really just look at these areas, because if you pay close attention, you're gonna notice that where price was before. Look at that. It's still valid till this day. All right. So I will definitely be looking at price to continue to push up to these areas, all right, to then sell this market. So this is, potential areas where I'd love to sell this market back to the downside, right? We are on a downtrend here. So anywhere between these two areas is going to be a good opportunity for me to jump in and sell that market. So I'm going to wait on those areas there, all right? And then what else am I looking at? Euro JPY, not anymore. GBP JPY for a sell potentially. What am I looking for in AUD JPY? AUD JPY for a sell. So because I'm looking for a sell on AUD JPY, I'm gonna start marking down my previous floors. All right, my previous floors. All right, we can see that price pushed into this floor, pushing down now. Also have this area here. All right, also have this area here. So we've got two potential areas where price could start selling. But if it does break these areas, we still have a lot of floors, right? We still have some good floors here, right, that we can start looking at, right? But we're going to see how this market is going to behave. And then Euro JPY. What are we looking for in Euro JPY? Let's see. your JPY strength is more or less the same. So I'm really not going to be looking, too much into it, right? Not really going to be looking, much into it. Let me just look at here, how big of a, so look at that, strength is more or less the same. So we're not going to be looking at USD JPY, Euro JPY, I mean. But look at what I told you guys here. What did I say was going to happen here, guys? I said, because we're still on an uptrend, right? This is a beautiful analysis, honestly. All right, because we've got a trend here. We can see that we are on an uptrend, right? And every time the trend is closer touching this area, what happens is that it starts to reverse and continues on the trend. Now, because price eventually got to anywhere around this areas, right? My conviction and my analysis was saying, listen, price could start now pushing back to the upside from this area because we are still on an uptrend. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And that's how price is playing out. All right, and that's how price is pushing. Look at that, right? Because we are still on an uptrend, right? And every time we can see that price was closer touching near this trend line, what happened is already started pushing to the upside. And what happened now? All right, it made a massive drop to come respect this trend line and also to come respect this, previous ceiling turned into a floor. Now what's happening is that it's continuing with the trend. Right, so this is playing out very, very good. All right, this is playing out very nicely, but we don't want to jump in on setups like this, especially with, a big crash like that of the market. We want to just wait for it to play out, because eventually what is going to happen is we could see price pushing up and then coming back down to probably respect this area to then continue to the upside. And that's where now we're going to be confident in jumping in when the strength gains, when USD gains strength again over the JPY. But let's continue with looking for other ideas, other analysis. NZD USD. Let's look at what's happening on NZD USD. NZD USD, I'm looking for a sell because USD is stronger than NZD. All right. So what do I want to start doing? I want to start marking down my previous ceilings. All right. My previous ceilings. So I do have an area here. Have an area here. All right. So I do have, two areas so far. I could actually mark down this area so long. We can see that price was trending to the side and then eventually made that push, broke that area, came back to retest that area, broke this area, came back to retest this area, broke this area. Now it came back to retest it. Now it could continue, on this trend to the downside. All right. So we have an area here that if price pushes up to that area, we could see price reverse it. So that's what I'm looking for on NZD USD. Let's look at GBP AUD. GBP AUD, just by looking at it, I can see that we are on an uptrend. All right. GBP AUD, we're on an uptrend. All right. Strength might just be close, but we're still on an uptrend. So we could definitely start seeing this market, pushing to the upside. All right. We've got area here. I'm going to make this blue. And an area here. And we can see this market as we make massive waves to the upside, right? Really just making just brutal moves to the upside, all right? No remorse, all right? So that is how GBP AUD is setting up. Honestly, it's going to take some time for this market to get to this area. So we're going to let for it to play around, and eventually, boom, we're going to take it for a buy. Might not happen now, but throughout the course of the day or even next week, this move is going to play out where my price is going to eventually get to anywhere around these areas for us to then continue to, push to the upside if we are continuing with that trend. AUD-CHF. AUD-CHF. We're looking for a sell on AUD-CHF because we can see CHF is stronger than AUD. All right. We are coming in on timing. So I just want to quickly just see if any of the ideas that we've already looked at is close to near an area where, look at this beautiful move. We can actually start looking at it. Okay, not close. Not close. We say we're not looking at this one. Not close. Not looking at that one as well. So as it stands, so we're going to be patient, honestly. All right, let's just be patient. All right. So what I want to see here is I want to see what the market has been doing to the left. All right, because what the market has been doing to the left is going to tell me what the market is going to be doing now. All right. So I can see here. I can see here if I push this all the way to the left. Right, I can see here that did have, you know, a couple of areas I want to mark a note. Let me delete this first, man. This is what I want to mark. This area here, and I'm going to make this red. I also want to mark this area here. And lastly, I want to mark this area here. So I just want to look at these three areas and see if they correspond to what price is currently doing now. Right? Oh, look at that, beautiful, guys. Can you guys see that whatever's been happening previously eventually is going to come back to the present? Right? Look at these areas, right? This is where price was previously. We can see that, you know, currently as it is, right? These areas, price is still respecting and playing around those same areas. Right? Price is still playing around those same areas. And now AUDCHF is coming up to one of those areas. So we could be looking for potential sell, right? If strategy is also aligning for us to be able to jump in on this market around these levels to continue to sell this market to the downside. Right? So that is what I'm looking for on AUDCHF. I'm looking for the market to continue to push up, just give us, you know, enough room for us to continue to sell this market to the downside. Euro USD has been trending to the side. We can see that it's just been moving sideways for the longest time. Right? It's just been moving sideways for the longest time. Euro USD, and that's because strength is more or less the same. We can see Euro and USD are both 4 bars, and that's why we can see, you know, price trading to the side. As soon as one of these gains more strength, that is when we're going to see a trend. That is when we're going to see direction. So, for example, if Euro starts gaining strength, what do you think we're going to see here? We're going to see the price break above this area, come back to retest this area to continue to push to the downside. But see, if USD starts gaining strength, what we can see is we can see price coming up to these areas, you know, bouncing up these areas to then continue to drop, break all this area here. So let me just give you guys, let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so we have floors here. All right, we can all agree. All right, we have floors here, and then we have ceilings here. We can all agree. So I'm going to make this blue and I'm going to make this red. Now, here we can see prices for the longest time trending between the two. All right. Now, here is my take and my analysis on what's happening here. We can see that the reason why that's happening is because Euro and USD have more or less the same strength. Right. So what does that mean? It means that there is no clear direction. There's no clear trend as to what the market is doing currently. So if Euro is to gain strength, right, which means that the first after see price break this area, let me just delete this. Let me just use this because this is going to be easier. So if we're now starting an uptrend, we can see price breaking these areas to come back to this area to then start that trend, to then start building and pushing to the upside, right? Then start pushing to the upside. And then also, if we're looking at a sell trend, we can see price respect this area to continue to push back down and eventually break this area and then come back to respect this area and then to start moving to the downside. So that is what I'm looking for on USD, but we don't have any clear-cut confirmation as to what the market is doing currently. But if USD starts gaining strength, this is what I'm anticipating the market is going to go start doing. But if Euro starts gaining strength, then this is what I would potentially start seeing in this market. If this is making sense, drop some 111s in the chat box. Awesome, 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 awesome. I'm seeing all the ones. I'm seeing all the ones. So that is how the market is playing currently right now. So we're going to let this market, play out how it wants to play out. And then eventually, now remember, we always trade the retest. So if prices breaks either to the upside or to the downside, that is actually great. But we're going to wait for it to then come back, because that when it comes back, that is the best time for us to enter into that trade to continue to push. If it breaks this area, we're going to wait for it to come back. And then when it comes back, that's when we take it at where? At the floor, now ceiling, or where? At the ceiling, now floor for a buy, right? So that's my take on Euro USD. All right, GBP JPY. Let's see what's happening on GBP JPY. Let's see the strength. GBP JPY potentially now on a downtrend because JPY is stronger than GBP. All right, potentially now starting a downtrend. All right. Potentially now on a downtrend. So obviously what I would love to see is I'd love to see the market push up to any previous floors to then continue to reverse, right, to continue to the downside. All right, we've got some strong floors here. All right, I'm going to make this red. We've got some strong floors here. All right, we've got a floor here. And we can see this floor was respected, price pushed up to that floor, respected it, continued to drop down, push back up, drop down, eventually did break it. Now we also have a floor here, and that's probably why the market is behaving how it's behaving around this area. As much as it's not a strong one, we do have some sort of floor here. Right, this was a ceiling first. Before it became a floor, it was a ceiling, and then eventually it broke the ceiling, came back to retest the ceiling, and then turned it into what? A floor, right, to push up. So now we're treating it as a floor, but it was a ceiling previously, and because it was a ceiling, it can be a ceiling again, right? So let me just look at GBP JPY quickly and see what's really happening. Yeah, it's nowhere near strategy. So obviously we'd love for it to continue to push up, probably to around this area here. This is probably a good area where we would love to start selling. All right, where we would love to start selling. So I've just gone through all the currencies, right, that I normally trade. So now it's just about being patient, just looking at how these markets are going to play out, right, and seeing if any of them. Okay, AUD USD is now starting to push up to the area, slowly starting to make that push. All right, we've got about 5 more minutes until the Q2 mark. Let's see if we can't see any idea that's setting up for us. AD JPY not yet ready, and that's probably because it's still respecting this area here. This is probably because it's still respecting this area here. But eventually I would love for it to break this area, because if it pushes up to this area, that's a stronger sell idea. Or AD JPY. So let me just quickly just look at all these on strategy whilst I'm looking at them simultaneously. So I'm no longer looking at USD JPY. All right. Firstly, I'm no longer looking at USD JPY until it gives me any clear cut, push to the downside or to the upside, because we can see now strength has changed. USD was stronger than JPY, but now the roles have reversed. All right. So I'm going to wait to see any big movements. All right. Before I want to jump in on that market. AUD USD, on the other hand, looked like it was ready. We can see stochastic wasn't an oversold area. Let me see where this market was. AUD USD. If I was to look to the left, I'm probably going to see some sort of, ceiling around that area that could validate that move. There we go. Look at this, guys. Hey, guys, this is what I tell you. The market will always respect previous price action. That's probably why the market is where it's at right now. Look at that. Drop some 222s if you're seeing that. If you're seeing that, I had to go all the way to the left to identify a floor. And where do we sell? We sell where, guys? We sell at previous what? At previous floors, because previous floors are going to turn to what? Into ceilings, right? And that's why this market is doing what now? It's dropping at this area because this is a crucial area. This was a good area to start selling. And if we can trace our steps back, we can see that the reason why that market is actually selling at that point, at that area, is because this was what? This was a previous floor, right? Price bounced at this floor, pushed all the way to the upside. Now, because of that, right, we can see now that is treating it now as what? As a ceiling, right? As a ceiling. And it's making that push, right? That is why AUD USD, right, currently right now as it is making that push to the downside, right? So we can let this move play out, right? It's completely fine. We can let this move play out. But eventually, I would love for this market to come to these areas that I already have here, I've already marked, because it has to come and respect these areas to continue to sell. So eventually, might not be now, but it might not be throughout the day, right? This market might just continue to drop and then play. But eventually, in this market, you're going to see, guys, I'm going to leave this analysis as is, all right? I'm going to leave this analysis as is. We're going to look at it on Monday. Let me just mark, some higher zones as well, just in case, price decides to push up a bit higher. But we're going to look at this market again on Monday. And we're going to see, right? Even if price continues to push back down, eventually I'm saying price is going to continue to come back down to this area to then drop, and eventually can go back to this area to then drop, because it hasn't respected these areas and hasn't sold those areas yet on this downtrend. All right. AUD JPY. All right. It's still not ready on strategy. All right. Euro JPY. We said that we're not looking at Euro JPY as it stands because the strength now are more or less the same. So we're going to leave Euro JPY. All right. Let me just look at it on here. All right. We can see the strength are more or less the same. So we're not going to be looking at that because it's not giving us any clear-cut direction as to where it wants to go. NZD USD. Waiting on NZD USD to really push up to an area where we would love to buy it or sell it. We would love to sell it. We can see RSI is nowhere near that, right? Remember, guys, also, when we want to sell the market, our biggest confirmation is when RSI is at the red and stochastic is at the red. When both of these are at the red, this market is now ready to start reversing. Until then, we have to be patient and wait. All right. So that's why I'm very, very confident that around these areas, we might just be getting that, confirmation. Because as it is right now, where it's at, all right, strategy is not aligning. All right. So that's why we're going to be patient with this market. Now it is starting to make that push to the upside. All right. And look at that. Look at what's happening right now. What did I tell you guys? Now it's starting to do what? It's starting to push up to those zones, right? So I'm thinking when this market pushes up there to around these areas, it should start getting ready for us to start reversing. should start, getting ready for us to start reversing. Let me just put my zone here. I'm going to make this red just to watch this price. If price continues to break above to these areas, definitely then we're going to be looking to sell this market. All right, but as it is right now, where it's at, honestly, for me, it's not in a sell idea. I'd love for it to continue to push back to the upside. GBP AUD, slowly but surely pushing back, but let's just look at it on strategy. Now, when we want to buy a market, I just broke down what the main confirmations on a sell. Now, the main confirmations for buy, guys, is we want RSI and stochastic both below the blue or touching the blue. We can see that stochastic is ready for this market, but RSI is not. So because we need both, we're going to be patient for, when it comes to this market. We're going to be patient when it comes to this market. So for now, I can actually mark this area as well. AUDCHF. Boom. AUDCHF looks like it got to a sell area. Let's look at AUDCHF. It got to where I had my arrow. So stochastic was there. RSI was probably close, not really there yet. Or maybe it was when this market was at its highest. But currently right now it is dropping. And I'm looking at the strength and I'm not too confident with the strength because the strength is too close for me to really be confident in this move. But look at how this market played out. I said this market was going to push up to this area to then continue to drop. And that's exactly what's happening. Euro USD still not giving us any clear-cut chances or any clear-cut movements, still moving sideways. And then last but not least, GBP JPY, right, still on this downtrend, still failing to break this area. I would love for GBP JPY to break above this area to then sell. All right, GBP JPY. Yes, I'd love for GBP JPY to break above so we can start selling anywhere around these areas here. RSI is, stochastic is ready at this area, but I don't want to sell at this area. There we go. Now it's breaking that area. Right now it's breaking my first area. Right now it's breaking my first area. This is an area, like I just said, I want this market to break this area to come up to this area here. This is the area I'm looking for. This is where I want to start selling. All right. But we can see it's struggling to break this area here. All right, it's struggling to break this area. The reason it's struggling is because this was what? This was a ceiling. Then it was a floor. Now it's back at being a ceiling again. So there's some strong buying and selling power around these areas, right? There's some strong movements on this area right here. So that's why this market is, every time we can see, look at that, it pushed up, it pushed down, pushed up again, pushed down, pushed up again, pushed down, pushed up again, pushed down. So every time it tries to push towards this area, there's some strong selling power that's pushing this market to the downside. But eventually, I'm saying this market is going to break this area. Now, if we can push, if we can take this and drag it all the way to the left, right? We can see that even to the left-hand side, we did have, some floor. It was a floor, then it was a ceiling, then it was a floor again, and then after ceiling again. So that's some strong, selling and buying power around this area here. And that's why this market is failing to break above this area. But as soon as it breaks above this area, it's going to give us a good indication that potentially around here, it could start pushing back down again. Or ideally, push back up to the strong area here to then start falling. All right, so those are my two areas that I'm going to be looking for to sell on GBP JPY. So as it is right now, no clear idea is really setting up for us, but we've got our eyes on majority of these ideas. We know exactly what it is that we want to see. All right, AUD CHF now starting to move nicely to the downside. GBP JPY still waiting for it to give us this break here. Still waiting for it to give us this break. I'm going to draw a little. Now look at that, guys. So I'm seeing a little floor here, and that's why you see me making this area here. Look at that, guys. So GBP JPY really starting to set up for us now as it is, right? Playing out exactly how I wanted it to play out. I did want it to break that area eventually, right? Now look at that, right? That's at my second area right now, right? It's at my second area. Stochastic, RSI, both, already at that area. All right, so we can potentially start seeing this market start reversing. All right, look at that. Can you see it pushed into the area? And because there's some sort of resistance at the area, is pushing back down now. But we're going to see, right, how it's really going to play out. And this is how I was able to spot this move here. All right, I spotted this small floor here. All right, price was pushing up, came back, boom, pushed up, broke this area, came back. It's minuscule, it's a minuscule move, but it's making all the difference right now, right? But honestly, because it's a small move, we could see price just break this area, right? Just break this area. But if not, and if we see that, hey, listen, price is still failing to break this area, we could potentially sell this market. So we are potentially looking to sell GBP JPY very, very soon. All right, GBP. Look at stochastic. All right, stochastic is ready. RSI is almost ready also. So let's see how this market is going to play out. Look at how this market is behaving around this area. All right, look at how this market is behaving around this area. So I do have my eyes on AUDCHF. All right, I do have my eyes on, not on GBP JPY, I mean. AUDCHF also pushing back up now. This is AUDJPY. What happened to AUDCHF? Oh, there. But I'm not going to be looking too much into AUDCHF because I'm seeing the strength now is changing. But GBP JPY is in a very good position. GBP AUD is starting to make some slow progress towards my area. NZD USD not really ready. Euro JPY starting now to make strides to the upside. AUD JPY. AUD JPY broke my small area, pushing nicely towards my second area, which is honestly my biggest confirmation. All right, so if this market pushes up to this area here, could really start looking at market to start dropping. So that's what I'm looking for there. AUD USD. AUD USD playing out here. All right, it's back at that area again. So we're gonna see if strategy is aligning. So let's look at AUD USD. Let me just refresh because I don't know what's happening after hourglass. Because we do have 5 minutes until the start of the new candle. So we do have, some potential ideas that are setting up. I'm not going to be looking at AUDCHF because of the strength. All right. So I'm ruling out AUDCHF already. All right. As much as it is pushing up to a good area, as much as AUDCHF is pushing up to a good sell area, all right, because of the strength, all right, I'm not going to take this. I'm not going to risk it. All right. We can see everything is setting up, but I'm not going to risk it. So I'm ruling out that one. And then let me look at AUDJPY. AUDJPY looks like on paper, it's also ready. On paper, it is also ready, but I would love for it to also continue to push back to the upside. All right, towards that strong area that I marked there. I've got a very strong area that I marked there. And that is exactly where I would love for it to push back up into in order for me to be ready for that sell. All right, I already have this area here, and it looks like it is making that push slowly to the upside. So AUDJPY, definitely looking at it. All right, definitely looking at it. But we're going to see what's going to happen the next 3 minutes. What else? So I ruled out AUDCHF. I'm looking at AUDJPY. EuroJPY making a push. So ruled out EuroJPY because it's already making a trend. It's already pushing now. Euro USD is still in the box, so I'm not really looking into it. GBP AUD, slowly but surely, it's back at this area here. So we could really start, market could potentially hit this area, push to the upside, stochastic RSI, both there. But the strength is not as good as I would have liked, right? Not as good as I would have liked. It's too close for comfort for me. Oh man, GBP JPY got to an area and dropped. Look at that, guys. Look at that small area I told you guys about that I noticed. I said if price is failing to break this area, what's gonna happen? It's gonna start dropping. And look at what happened. Look at that massive drop on GBP JPY. Look at that massive drop on GBP JPY. And we can see here, right? Stochastic was ready, RSI was touching. So both strategy and technical analysis, right, were aligning because we had our area, we had our zone, we had our structure. And when we validate that move, we can see that both were there. So that's why this market reversed and started selling. All right. So as it is right now, this move is already played out. We've missed this move. All right. We missed this sell idea. AUD USD, AUD JPY, and GBP AUD. AUD USD. Where's AUD USD? I couldn't find AUD USD anywhere. Oh, there we go. AUD USD sitting up for a sell. This market is going to start selling in the next 6 seconds. This market is going to start selling in the next 6 seconds. I'm seeing a sell on AUD USD because it's still at this area, it's still at this zone. And we can see that so I'm seeing a question in the chat box. Please explain what you mean by the fact that you aren't selling certain currencies due to strength. Do you mean strength in direction? Yes, strength in direction. So if the market is not strong in a certain direction, then I'm not going to sell that, specific market, because when I want to sell a market, I need a clear trend. So, what defines a clear trend for me is the strength, right? For example, let's look at AUD USD right now, right? We can see on AUD USD that USD is 59 and AUD is 34. So we can see that this is a big gap between the two. So there's more strength in this downward trend. So there's more strength in this direction to the downside. So I would be confident in taking this trade, for a sell. Why? Because I can see that there is a clear overpowering of USD on AUD, which means that this market is really pulling this market to the downside. There's more momentum to the downside. But if we have something like, for example, AUD-CHF, look at AUD-CHF, it's like 38 and 34, right? That's not giving me any good confidence in me wanting to sell this market, as much as this market could potentially start selling. But because of the strength in this direction, it's not as strong as AUD-USD, if that makes sense. If that makes sense, drop some 111s in the chat box. So I always want to look at the strength, because the strength is going to determine how big of a move I want to expect, and how confident I should be in that move playing out. All right, how confident I am in that move playing out. For example, what did I tell you guys was going to happen in the next 6 seconds on AUD USD before? I said in the next 6 seconds, and you're going to watch this video again, I said in the next 6 seconds, AUD is going to open and it's going to drop. Who heard me say that? Who heard me say that? I said in the next 6 seconds, AUD is going to open and it's going to start dropping. And look at what happened. AUD USD opened, and then what happened? It started to fall. Right? It opened and it started to fall. Just like how I predicted. Because of what? Because I saw the strength and I saw the area it was in. But honestly, on this session, we didn't really have any clear-cut opportunities for us to enter the market, right? But this was a very good session when it comes to really just me breaking down who was able to even capitalize on this AUD. Look at AUD USD, guys. Who took it, and when I said, hey, listen, this market is going to start reversing. I know I didn't call it out, but look at how this market is playing out. I want to just go look at GBP JPY. But if you took AUD USD, you should have cleared. I want to look at GBP JPY right now. I want to look at GBP JPY. So GBP JPY's strength is also changing. All right, GBP JPY strength is also changing. So if the currency at the bottom is stronger, then it will drop. If the currency at the top is stronger, it's going to become a buy. Yes. So when the second currency is stronger than the first currency, that's a sell. When the first currency is stronger than the second currency, that's a buy. All right, that is a buy. Now we can see the strength on GBP JPY is changing right now. All right, strength is changing right now. So I'm not gonna really, look into it that much. But yeah, guys, that should be, honestly, the end of the session. AUD-CHF still respecting this area. I think this was a very good, session when it comes to just me breaking down, the whole idea behind, looking at the charts and really trading. And I'm glad that, we didn't have any disruptions, didn't have any, thing that, interrupted us, and everything that we, were learning, just was playing out, nicely for us, so hopefully you guys learned a lot on the session. I know we didn't take a trade, but I'm excited, because I was happy with today's session. Honestly, I feel like, it was very valuable, and a lot of information was shared, and I'm excited to be dropping this video back, for you guys, so you guys can actually go through it over and over again, and make it make sense for you guys. All right. So with that being said, cleared AUD USD, cleared AUD USD, cleared AUD USD. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. All right. That's what I want to see. All right. That is exactly, took my first trade ever, and it was cleared. Awesome, man. Awesome. See, this is why I love doing what I do, guys. All right. This is exactly why. Right. So AUD USD, like I said, what did I say was going to happen? I said it was going to push to the downside. What happened? It pushed to the downside. Exactly how I said it was going to push down. All right, exactly how I said it was going to push down. All right, and that's why people took that trade. They cleared that trade. Look at AUD JPY. What did I say was going to happen? I said I wanted it to. I said I wanted to come to this crucial zone. Look at what it did. It got to the zone. Boom, pushed back to the downside. And I was looking at AUD JPY. I don't know how I missed that, but I was very patient on AUD JPY because I saw that beautiful move, and it really played out exactly how I wanted it to play out. Right, it's just unfortunate that we couldn't, capitalize on that move. But this area, I said, listen, hey, this is a very crucial area because this was a floor, and if price breaks this floor, it has to come back and respect it. And look what happened. Literally, it went up to kiss my area, and then it said, hey, I'm here, I respected you, now I'm pushing to the downside. Boom, market is now starting to drop. And I'm seeing someone saying that they actually saw that on AUD JPY, and they took that trade, and they are in on AUD JPY. You should clear AUD JPY. As soon as you clear, drops clears in the chat box so everyone can see that. See, guys, the reason why we do this in front of you guys is so that you can learn, but not only learn, but as we're marking these areas, as we're marking these zones, you're also doing the same thing so that, even if we're not looking at a specific idea, or even if we're not looking at a specific trade, and you are looking at it and you can see that trade, you can actually go and take that trade because of the information that you're learning on the session, and also, your understanding of what it is that you're seeing, right? Cleared, amazing, 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 right? So that's why, that individual was able to clear this trade. But we weren't looking at AUD JPY, but because I marked down my areas, because I was talking about it, right? And because I mentioned what I was looking for, look at this. Can we drop some 777s, and we can see that this trade was ready. Look at RSI. RSI was at the red. Look at stochastic. Stochastic was at the red. Look at the strength. The strength was on our side. So what happened? Market started to drop. Market started to do what? Started to drop. Look at that move on AUD JPY, right? So it's very important for you guys, whilst you're learning, whilst you're on these sessions, every time I mark up my charts, you're marking up your charts. Every time I draw lines, you're drawing lines at the same areas, so that even after the session, you can actually go back and you can look at the areas, right? And you can watch price get to those areas, and you can see and watch how price responds to those areas. And you can take trades on your own, right? Using strategy. You can validate this area. See, what I normally do, I open TradingView. I look at everything I want to see. And then when price pushes up to an area where I already saw it, I want to go validate what it is that I'm seeing on strategy to give me more confirmation that what I'm seeing is exactly what, the market is, doing, right? For example, I saw this move and I was like, hey, listen, if price comes to this move, I am confident it's going to do what? It's going to start pushing to the downside. But in order for me to validate that move, I want to go look at, is it really ready to sell at that area? Because if it is already, I'm going to see stochastic above the red. I'm going to see RSI touching above the red. And I'm going to see the strength still on my side. And exactly all of those were still ticking. All of those boxes were still ticking. I still had the down arrow, still had the EMA, and everything else that I normally touch on. But the main points, before I even look at all the others, is my strength there? Yes, strength is on my side. Do I have stochastic in an overbought area? Yes, it is. Is it above the red? Yes. Do I have RSI? Yes. Now I can start looking at all the other confirmations. Do I have a ceiling here? Yes, I do. Previous price action? Yes, I do. Do I have the EMA above the market, and is it red? Yes, it is. Is it on timing? right? Can we all agree that when this price pushed up there, it was on timing? It was at six, right? So it was on timing also. So was it on timing? Yes, it was on timing. Right now, I start piecing up all these ideas together, and they all conclude that, hey, I want to take this trade because I'm saying this market is going to do that. Boom, I jump in on the trade, and the trade moves in my direction. If this is making sense, right? If this is making sense, drop some yeses in the chat box so we can close this session. Drop some yeses in the chat box so I can close this session. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I'm seeing all the yeses in the chat box, right? I'm seeing the chat box get flooded with some yeses, right? And, very exciting to see people really learning, right? Very excited to see people learning. We can see this market is now starting to drop, right? Now, with that being said, guys, I do appreciate you guys, right? Unfortunately, we weren't able to, take any trades. I know a couple of people took that AUD USD, right? Because they were paying attention, right? I did say that, hey, listen, right? In the next couple of seconds, AUD USD is going to start selling. And what happened? Next couple of seconds, AUD USD sold, right? So a lot of people jumped in on that trade on the AUD USD, and they were able to capitalize on it. Right? Look at that. Look at this area here. Let me just go look at AUD. Let's open AUD USD one last time. Look at this, guys. All right. I said AUD USD when it gets to this area is going to do what? It's going to sell. Look at this massive drop right now. Look at this massive drop here. That is a beautiful, beautiful move. Right? I know a lot of people took it at that first drop, right? And they cleared that one, right? It pushed up again into that same area, and then it made an even bigger move to the downside again, right? To still respect this area, right? To still respect this area. So this was a beautiful, beautiful move on AUD USD, right? It really played out how we wanted it to play out. And I know a couple of people took this trade and they definitely cleared that trade. So I'm excited also for that. But let me just stop the recording now.